All right. My name's Philo Blake from the Dawes Saints Church. I'm going to show you guys how to portion out a chicken, whole chicken, and make some homemade sausage. First, with the chicken, you want to grab him by the leg right there, and right in between the breast and the leg, see that little piece of fat right there? You want to cut right down into there. Then pull it apart like that, and you'll see the bone right there, the little knuckle. Just take your knife and just cut right down between that. And get it right. Then you want to flip him over. Take your skin, cut the skin back. You'll pick it up by the leg right here, and you're going to cut it right in the middle right there. Just separate it apart. Then pick him up and crack it till you see that bone out right there. Then just take your knife and just cut right on along right through there. And you'll see where the bone is. Hit right in the joint. It'll come right apart. Just like that. Then to take the wings off, they can cut right there where there's a big piece of fat in there. You'll see there's a bone right there. Just peel it back and crack it. Then you can go right down in between it and portion it right off like that. Then you have your thigh and your wing right there. If you want to separate the thigh and the wing, just feel around, you'll see a joint right here. You can do it on the back side or the front side. Just take your knife and go right down between the joint like that. And separate them right apart. Same thing with on the other side right there. Go right down into the joint right there. Peel it back and you'll see the joint. You can also use a smaller knife too. I just prefer using the big butcher knife. And then right to separate the thigh and the wing portion again, just look right for that joint where there's a big piece of fat and just cut right down the middle of it. Then see that right there where the rib is? Just take and cut that off. And then if you want to cut your breast in half, you want to go right down the middle right here and crack it. And then take it, bend it over a little, and just take your knife, put it in the middle right there. Let me do it on, it's a little easier than on the plate. And then just push down into it till you hear it crack. Like that. And then just all you got to do is just take, slice down in the middle, and you've got two big breasts. That's how you cut up the chicken. All right, now I'm going to show you guys how to make sausage. I'm starting off with the 4-pound pork roast, and I'm going to cut it into sections. You can use any sections of the pork that you want. But I prefer parts of the roast because it's easier. Now you want to take, because it's bone in, and you'll see where the bone is right here. Just cut it off in sections. So just cut your meat off in chunks. And I've got a bowl set up right here. I've already put it on the scale and zeroed out the scale. So I'll just put the meat in there. And you want to leave the fat on because you want the fat with your pork, with your sausage. And again, you want to make it, cut it in nice little chunks so that it'll go right down into the grinder like that. And if you notice too, I always curl my fingers like that, so if the knife misses, it just rides the skin down and doesn't cut. You want to measure out about a pound? That's just a little bit over a pound right there, so that'll do it. See, you see the grinder and the thing?
Sure can.
Okay. Now, if you don't have a grinder, you can also do it in like a, you can mince the meat up, or you can get like a small hand grinder and hand grind it. But I happen to have a nice electric grinder. Put a bowl under it so it'll. Then once you've ground all your meat up, got another bowl right here, and you want to measure your ingredients out. The recipe I got, it calls for the table salt. It calls for 1 teaspoon of table salt. You want to measure out 1 teaspoon of table salt, put it in a bowl. 1 teaspoon of sugar. Half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I usually use, instead of black pepper, I use red pepper flakes, but you can use black pepper or red pepper flakes. Get this one out of me. Yep. And I put it into the sausage. I mean, usually you can put it in another bowl, but you can mix it in with the sausage too as you're doing it. And then it calls for a half a teaspoon of sage, of rubbed sage. You can put more or less of rubbed sage in there. It just depends on your preference and your taste. Where's my parsley? And it calls for a half a teaspoon of dried parsley. Then you need a quarter a teaspoon of, forgive me if I don't pronounce it right, marjoram. And you need a quarter teaspoon of thyme. And I got water already right here, so I don't have to go to the sink and get any of these. 2 teaspoons of water. And then I usually put gloves on so that way you don't get it down between your fingers or anything when you're mixing it. I can get it on here. And then you just dig your hands in and then just mix it up really good. I usually mix it for about a minute or so. You can make sure that all the seasonings get distributed evenly into the meat. And once you've mixed it up, you stick it back down on the grinder. And I always regrind it. What I do preferably do is I started out with a real coarse. I'll show you in a second. With a real coarse blade on there, disc on there. And I always regrind it with a smaller one. Let me go ahead and turn it on here. And then all you've got to do is just either vacuum seal it or you can cook it right away. Usually what I do is I take and I make little patties out of it, put them in the vacuum sealer bag, vacuum seal them up, and then freeze them for later on. And then as I'm making the sausage, I know every one of these is different, but it's hard to see down in there. But mine's got a little plate right there. So it won't allow me to get my fingers all the way down in there to get to the blade that's down here. And it's also tall enough so I can shove the stuff down in. But if you have a shorter one, you want to use a plunger that comes with it to push all the meat down in there.
Hey, that's great.
That good, Kit?
Making me hungry.
I know it. You can smell it. It smells good.
I'll bet it does. Hey, how long can you freeze it, Philo?
You can freeze it up as long as if you vacuum seal it, you can freeze it for upwards of almost a year and a half to 2 years. I've made big batches of it and actually froze it in upwards of about a little over 2 years, and it's been fine.
Good heavens.
As long as if you vacuum seal it there. But if you don't vacuum seal it, it's good for up to 6 months in the freezer.
I see. That really makes a difference then.
So it's always better to vacuum seal them.
Uh-huh. I admire your grinder. That's quite a piece of equipment.
And these right here, I got this one online for, is a $200 grinder. I got it on sale for $150, but you can get a cheap one if you don't use it a whole lot. And they do the same thing. They just take a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
For right around 70, 80 bucks.
Got it.
And sometimes you can catch them on sale even cheaper than that.
Good to know. Well, anything else you think it'd be good for people to know about either the cutting up the chicken or
when you're cutting, you see how I got my fingers like that?
Yeah.
When your fingers are turned like that, your nails can drive into the meat. Right. So it doesn't move as much. And then when the knife goes down, see how it skims right down me?
Yes.
So it's not, if you're like that, you got a chance of taking one of your fingertips off. It's like that. It just catches your knuckles and goes down. And it's a lot less of a chance of it taking your fingers off or cutting you. And then also, you want to make sure that your knives are sharp. A dull knife's what'll cut you first. The sharp knife is less of a chance of it cutting you. I know it sounds weird, but that's the rule of thumb. A sharper knife always
that makes good sense.
Yep.
You use a steel to sharpen them?
I got a sharpening stone right here.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you guys how to use it. I got this one that's right there, is on course. Basically, pull it like that. Just leave it up on a little bit of an angle.
Yeah.
Turn it so you hope you guys can see it. And then just drag it across. Then turn it back the other way. Drag it across. And do it about 2 to 3 times. Then flip it to where it's medium.
Mm-hmm.
And then just do it again. And then turn it to coarse or to fine. And just slide it about 2 to 3 times. And then when you're cutting your meat, if you really want to fine tune your blade, you just go like that. Just hold it on an angle.
Got it.
And just down just slowly. I'll show you how to do it real slow so that way. And you want to do it the same amount of times on both sides. It don't matter how many times you do it. It's just, you just want to make sure you do the same amount on both sides. And that one's nice and sharp now.
Super.
And that's my smaller butcher knife. My bigger one my brother has right now. I'd show it to you. And then that one's a boning knife. Right there, going in, and you can cut. See how I was able to debone and just follow the bone with it? So it allows me to cut around the bone and cut the meat off from around the bone.
Understand. Works well.
You never want to debone pork or anything like that. With a big knife like this, you always want to use a small boning knife because it's easier to go around it and less of a chance of you cutting yourself. Any questions?
You've answered my questions. When we show the video to folks tomorrow, can I tell them they can get in touch with you if they have questions they'd like to follow up?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me if they need to. And with the chickens, if sometimes it's easy to cut them. A lot of times it's not, but you basically got to follow along that fat line and then see where that knuckle bone is. Once
Yeah.
you break them apart or cut down through the fat and you see the knuckle bone, then you
Right.
go right in between the knuckle bones, and that's where you can cut them. Some chickens are harder than others. Some are easy.
Well, kind of like people, right?
Yep.
Cutting them up.
Some are just tougher than others.
There you go. Well, I surely thank you and appreciate you making the special arrangements to do this, since you had work come up tomorrow.
Yep. And hopefully later on this fall, I'll have a whole hog coming to me, and I can tell you guys how to actually cut the bacon, trim it up, and make bacon.
That'd be great. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.